Former President Trump is more dangerous than some of the most notorious dictators in the history of the world, says former Senator turned MSNBC pundit Claire McCaskill. A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler and the use of terminology like vermin and the drive that those men had toward autocracy and dictatorship. The Missouri Democrat said during an appearance Tuesday on the network, first highlighted by Mediaites. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous, and that is he has no philosophy he believes in. Trump recently sparked outrage for a post over Veterans Day weekend attacking his political enemies as vermin, drawing comparisons to Alex Adolf Hitler from some political observers. McCaskill said Trump is a unique type of authoritarian figure, noting he is not trying to overcome a neighboring country like Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Ukraine. He is not going for a grandiose scheme of international dominance. All he wants is to look in the mirror and see a guy who's president, she said. All he cares about is selfish self promotion. That's the only philosophy he has, which makes him even more dangerous. Trump is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president in 2024 by a wide margin, with new national polling also showing him narrowly ahead in the potential rematch with President Biden next year's general election. So, I have always in the past tried to not, I've never been a fan of comparing American politicians to dictators because the powers that American politicians tend to have are given to them by the voters. Like, for example, DeSantis, or I guess DeSantis, excuse me, that was a nice slip of the tongue. When someone would say that, oh, he's a dictator. Look at all of his policies and Florida's like, well, I mean, I guess, but he was elected. He didn't just storm the capital of the state and install himself with his supporters. But what I can say is that there are several unique, weird things relating to Trump that make a comparison like this have a little bit more weight. And it's not even like the whole, because listen, the whole thing about having no ideology is only half true in the sense that Trump's views and positions on issues have shifted and fluctuated everywhere, and like to where you really don't know what he honestly believes, and you just can only look at his record, when he was president, and certainly public statements he made before that contradict him even more so. But the way she's talking about him is like, oh, he wants self promotion. It's like, yeah, he wants power. That's what a good majority of American politicians want. They want power. They run for the House, then they run for the Senate or for governor, then they run for president. That's usually the way this stuff goes. They have a general ladder that they climb to achieve ultimate power. So pretending that Trump is different for wanting self promotion is totally nuts. And there are plenty of other politicians that say and do things that contradict each other, and they have no ideology either. They're just saying stuff to get elected. What she should have said, if she actually wanted to say that he was more dangerous, which I don't think I can agree with necessarily, because it's like you're even admitting that he's not interested in some kind of global conquest. She should have pointed out that he was a guy who, when he ran in 2016, he was kind of this mysterious, loose cannon candidate that people really didn't know what was going to happen. They just knew he talked different, sounded different, tended to have more moderate stances on issues. Was someone that people thought would kind of be at worst, kind of like Arnold in California, right? Someone that's Republican for their party, and maybe they're conservative on some issues, but they're a lot less than someone like Cruz, for example. And when he got in office, he governed like Bush would. He had conservative judges, this really goofy tax cut. I mean, it was just standard Republican stuff. And he really, besides having the weird mean tweets and whatnot, didn't stand out in any particular way. Like as a politician, like an actual legacy as president that would be remembered for, having some big, huge gain, again, besides the Supreme Court and the tax cuts. Although I'd say the Supreme Court more so, but whatever. Until he lost the election, and when he went around saying that it was stolen, it was taken from him, and a bunch of his supporters stormed the Capitol and he never condemned it, that was where he reached the point of, okay, this little like joke that we've had for the last, 3 4 years, it's now turned into something very dangerous. But really, you could say there's two parties. There's the Democrats who have their own set of problems, and the Trump party, because the party of the GOP is now a cult for this man. They will do whatever he wants. They will listen and believe whatever he wants. And if you present them with any evidence that he either lied about something, that he didn't do what he said he would do, um, they will just dismiss it. During the government shutdown, there was a video of him, excuse me, before the shutdown, saying that he would take responsibility for it. His supporters on Twitter all sat around blaming the Democrats, even though Trump himself admitted he knew this would happen, and he claimed at the time he would accept that it was because of him. Um, Another example would be how during this campaign he talks about how the Republicans aren't going to mess with Social Security, but as president in his budget proposals he tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. So this is someone who you could argue is really not that different from most conservatives from a governing standpoint, but as far as the cult around him, it does reach levels that we haven't seen with other modern politicians, I would say. Like they do a lot of, you know, just blatant God worship of Reagan, for example. But Reagan was the kind of person where even if you disagreed with him, there's no doubt in my mind that if he had lost to Mondale in '84, he would you wouldn't have seen anything like what happened on January 6th, 2 years ago. He would have bowed out, and that's why I said a lot of these other people, they're just politicians, but Trump has this weird several millions worth of people that just have this almost extreme. I mean, I think they like him more than Jesus if they're religious. Like it's scary. So I can agree with some of these comparisons to an extent, but they're not. McCaskill isn't making them in the right ways, I believe.